This is Candor Talk. Thank you for tuning in. Let's get right into the show. But before we get into the show, don't forget to check out our website, sylviaexpress.com. All right, fabulous people, how are you doing? This is Candor Talk, and I'm your host, Sylvia, and let's get right into it. Okay, so, the imposter in the White House is always having problems, but I think his weeks are getting a lot worse now. So many things are happening right now that you're starting to see panic coming from his administration and from the Republican Party because they realize that this Mueller investigation is heating up. The public doesn't like him at all. There's so many people in his cabinet who are starting to turn on him. So I'm going to get into all of that right now. Now, look, I have said for a long time that the imposter in the White House would not last his entire term. And I think I'm not the only one who thinks that anymore. Because Roger Stone, if you know anything about Roger Stone, he's like one of those really deranged human beings that basically is a Trump sycophant, but is a conspiracist too, and just a combination of like the worst kind of human being you possibly could ever encounter. But nevertheless, Roger Stone is predicting the demise of Donald Trump. He's predicting that Trump is being set up to be impeached, and he's actually writing a book that's going to outline basically the downfall of Donald Trump. So basically there was this article in Vanity Fair, and it was called Nikki Haley Stuck a Knife in His Back. Roger Stone is already writing the story of Trump's downfall. That's the title of the article. And here's what part of the article says. Okay. It says, one Trump ally is making plans to commercialize Trump's downfall. Longtime Trump confidant Roger Stone told me he is writing a book titled The Unmaking of the President as part of a multi-book deal with Skyhorse Publishing. Okay. Now, and then he said, I've been writing it as long as we go along, he said. Then he says, Stone said he got the idea to write the book chronicling Trump's removal from office after watching how the White House responded to the Robert-Mueller investigation. It's painfully obvious Mueller will bring charges, Stone said. The theory is Mueller will indict him on some process-related matters such as obstruction of justice. Excuse me, I still have a cold. The only people who don't seem to know it are Ty Cobb, John Dowd, and the president. Then it says, Stone also believes Trump could be removed from office because he has surrounded himself with disloyal cabinet members and other top officials. He said Nikki Haley stuck a knife in his back, Stone said, referring to her comments about Trump's accusers. According to Stone's back of the napkin tally, only 2 cabinet members would vote against invoking the 25th Amendment, the provision by which the president can be deemed unable to serve. Congress would have to vote by 2/3 majority to remove him permanently. Okay, so basically what Roger Stone is saying is that he thinks that Trump could be impeached or removed from office by the 25th Amendment, which is something that I've said for a while. Now, it's funny that Roger Stone actually thinks that only 2 people in the cabinet would vote against the 25th Amendment, including Nikki Haley, who he thinks stabbed Donald Trump in the back. Now, let me tell you what Nikki Haley actually said. I'm going to play a clip about what she actually said, and then I'll be right back.
Women who accuse anyone should be heard. They should be heard and they should be dealt with. And I think we heard from them prior to the election. And I think any woman who has felt violated or felt mistreated in any way, they have every right to speak up.
Okay, Nikki Haley wasn't supposed to say that. As we all know, she's not supposed to say that. Because if you're a part of the Trump administration, then you must consistently defend the indefensible and act like a complete and total fool. But Nikki Haley decided to say no. Women should be listened to and they need to be heard. Even the accusers against the imposter in the White House, they also deserve to be heard. Now, that was supposed to be something that was dealt with in the election season, allegedly, according to Republicans. But Nikki Haley is saying no. They still have the right to be heard. And you know what? They should be dealt with. So that's something that made Roger Stone and people in the Trump camp very, very angry with her. And that's why Roger Stone is basically saying right now, look, she stabbed him in the back. And I think that Trump could be removed from office by invoking the 25th Amendment. Think about what would happen if his cabinet members actually turned on him. That would be a catastrophic situation for him. Because if your cabinet members are saying you're basically unfit to serve in office, those are people who are the closest to you. Those are people that are right there with you, working on the same agenda as you. If those people are basically saying you are unqualified to be president of the United States, do you think that the Congress is going to go against that? And just think about the fact that Roger Stone actually feels like right now that he should start chronicling the downfall of Trump. So it's not just me anymore that's saying it, and it's not just me. It hasn't been just me for a long time. There's so many people who have said that the imposter in the White House was not going to last his entire term. And now it's actually coming to light to a lot of people that are surrounding themselves with Donald Trump. But it's not just that, these people think that he's going to be impeached. It's his approval rating is shit right now. It's literally in the tank. Let me read to you from The Hill. This was an article from The Hill. It says, poll, Trump favorability declines among those who say Fox is their most trusted news network. Okay, Fox viewers are saying, right now. Let me tell you what the article says. Okay, the article says, Trump's favorability rating has dropped 32 points between June and December among respondents who said they trust Fox over any other news network. In June, the number was 90%, and in December, just 58%, according to the data first reported by the Washington Post. In June, 40% of all voters said they view Trump favorably compared to just 34% in December. Okay, so part of the reason why you would probably start to see the cabinet coming and speaking out against him, like Nikki Haley, who clearly has presidential ambitions, is because they realize that this is a sinking ship. This is the Trump-tanic. I mean, this thing is going down in burning flames. So they're basically trying to jump off the ship, and that's why Roger Stone is projecting that Donald Trump is going to go down, his presidency is going to go down. But then the AP also had a poll that was done. Okay, and this is what the AP article says. It says, Americans pessimistic about Trump country, says the AP NORC poll. And it says just 3 in 10 Americans said the United States is headed in the right direction. And 52% said the country is worse off since Trump became president. Just think about that. 52% of the country thinks that the United States is worse off since the imposter in the White House became president. And then it says worrisome signs both for the White House and the Republicans heading into midterm election year where control of Congress will be at stake. Along with the 23% who think Trump has kept his promises, another 30% think he has tried and failed, and 45% think he hasn't kept them at all. Okay, and then in a second AP NORC poll conducted this month, Trump's job approval rating sits at just 32%, making him the least popular first-year president on record. A quarter of Republicans say they're among those who disapprove of the president. So let me tell you something. A quarter of Republicans, that means you have 75% of Republicans that support you now as the president. Those are abysmal numbers. You cannot win anything with 75% of your party supporting you. Nothing. Okay, now this is a guy who had 90% at one particular point, according to one of the polls. And then now he's at basically 75% among Republicans. He's literally at, let's see, what did they say the Fox News poll was? He's got 58% of Fox News viewers. So let me tell you something, Fox News, if you're ever going to listen to the show, which I think you're not. But let me just tell you something, Fox News. You can continue to try to promote this fraud in the White House, but you're going to start to lose viewers. When you have 58% of the people now that support the imposter in the White House watching your network, which means you have 42% that don't like it, you are going to start to lose viewers if you keep kissing his ass. So it's time for you guys to probably change your business model. Anyway, that's part of the reason why Trump is panicking. Because your approval rating is shit. 32%, I mean, Jesus, where can you go with 32%? Anywhere. Anybody at 32% is a complete and total failure at whatever it is that you're doing. You are an utter failure. There is no redemption for you, no chance for you to revive yourself. You are literally done. So he's at 32% approval rating, and that's the reason why what happens next? Here they go, trying to undermine Robert Mueller. See, the Russia investigation is heating up so much that Republicans are also scared that this investigation is going to bear fruit. So you're starting to see the Republicans act like complete and total idiots and embarrassing themselves on something that's really not likely to be successful. So essentially what they're doing right now is going after Robert Mueller and trying to allege that the Robert Mueller investigation is corrupt. That there's a conflict of interest and that he's actually not seeking out the things that he should be seeking out. So basically, let me play this real quick clip from Jim Jordan. He's a representative from Ohio who needs to be voted out the next election in 2018, who's essentially trying to tell the Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, to get rid of the Mueller investigation. Here it is.
This is unbelievable. And I'm here to tell you, Mr. Rosenstein, I think the public trust in this whole thing is gone. So it seems to me you got two things you can do. You're the guy in charge. You're the guy who picked Mueller. You're the guy who wrote the memo saying why he needed to fire Comey. You're the guy in charge. You could disband the Mueller special prosecutor, and you can do what we've all called for, appoint a second special counsel to look into this, to look into Peter Strzok, Bruce Orr, everything else we've learned in the last several weeks.
Okay, so as you can see right there, he was trying to get Rod Rosenstein to basically get rid of the Mueller investigation. He legitimately said, disband the Mueller investigation. Now, let me just tell you something before I get into what Rosenstein's response was. There's no logical reason to request a disbanding of the Mueller investigation. Let's just say that it bared no fruit. Let me tell you what it did bear. It got 2 indictments and 2 guilty pleas. I'm sorry, but this is no longer about a nothing burger. This is a something burger, a real significantly something burger. Okay? So what they're basically trying to do is disband a viable and valid investigation. Based on what? Investigation that actually has bared fruit. Not some witch hunt that they're trying to push forth. But the problem is, you don't have a game player in Rod Rosenstein. Because Rod Rosenstein, in so many words, basically told them to go fuck themselves by basically saying that the Mueller investigation, there's nothing wrong, he sees nothing improper about it, and he finds no grounds to fire Mueller. Here he is being interviewed by one of the Democrats in his last hearing. Here it is.
Investigation. Under this presumption, could you or the Attorney General Sessions simply appoint a special counsel to look into these matters?
No.
As I said earlier, to my knowledge, there's been no credible factual or legal claim that anybody at the department violated any law by deciding not to bring charges or by attempting to meet with Fusion GPS. If that is true, if there is no underlying criminal investigation because there is insufficient evidence of a crime, in this or any other case, do the regulations permit you to appoint a special counsel?
No.
Thank you. According to the department, the Office of the Inspector General informed Special Counsel Mueller of the existence of these text messages between Peter Strzok and Lisa Page on July 27, 2017. The text you sent us last night. Mr. Mueller immediately concluded that Mr. Strzok could no longer participate in the investigation, and he was removed from the team the same day. Did Mr. Mueller take appropriate action in this case?
Yes, he did.
Thank you. In testimony before the Senate Judiciary Committee, you said that you would only fire Special Counsel Mueller for good cause, and that you had not seen any yet. Several months have passed since then. Have you seen good cause to fire Special Counsel Mueller?
No.
Thank you. If you were ordered today to fire Mr. Mueller, what would you do?
As I've explained previously, I would follow the regulation. If there were good cause, I would act. If there were no good cause, I would not.
And you've seen no good cause so far?
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, so as you heard from Rosenstein, there's no good cause to fire Mueller. He hasn't found a reason to fire Mueller. So this witch hunt by the Republican Party right now, essentially trying to muddy the waters of the investigation, is actually going to backfire. Because what I think is actually happening, and I've said that on my last show, was that this is obstruction of justice. What is transpiring right now is they are basically trying to undermine a viable and valid investigation based on nothing of substance, but really trying to undermine and steer the investigation to a different direction in order to protect the imposter in the White House. That's not going to work. That's not going to be successful at all. That is going to backfire completely, and they should be very careful doing that. Because here's the problem. I'm sorry, I have the worst cold right now, and it still hasn't gone away. It's just getting worse every other day. So anyway, well, it gets worse, then it gets better, then it gets worse, then it gets better. But anyway, nevertheless, you can no longer say that the Russia investigation is not going to bear fruit. It already did bear fruit. You already have 2 indictments and 2 guilty pleas. But you also have Jared Kushner, Jeff Sessions, Donald Trump Jr., Donald Trump. You have all these other individuals who are under investigation right now. Hope Hicks. You have numerous people that are affiliated with the Donald Trump campaign that did things that were improper to Russia, continue to lie with Russians, continue to lie about it, and been caught. Even Jeff Sessions, who was allegedly supposed to be the Attorney General, got caught lying under oath. You can no longer say that this is a nothing burger. You can no longer argue that. So essentially, attempting to undermine that investigation is obstruction of justice. And I wouldn't be surprised if some of those people in Congress are being investigated right now. Because the problem with going forward with this particular argument is, one, you make people start to believe that there's a lot more there. And you're drawing attention to it because you're making all this noise about it. You're drawing attention to it that making people start to become like, well, why are you so adamantly against it? Why? So it's not actually a good strategy even from that perspective. It's just to continue to say these kind of things because it's going to make people more interested in figuring out what actually did happen. So Republicans aren't very smart on that particular angle. It's not going to work and it's going to backfire. So what happens again with the Republican Party? Okay, so now that Doug Jones won in Alabama, the Republican Party basically is at having a civil war right now because everybody's playing the blame game. Bannon's blaming McConnell. McConnell's blaming Bannon. But the one that's really falling the sword the hardest is Bannon and this is going to affect Donald Trump. And the reason why this affects Donald Trump is because this was Donald Trump's guy. This is a guy who's part of your campaign. This is a guy who's running basically Trump Bart. And this is a guy that's advising you even from the outside and telling you to do certain things. So now, if the Republicans start to bring down Bannon, that hurts Trump. So why would they do it? But anyway, nevertheless, there was an article in Politico, and it's called Republican Civil War Erupts Anew. And it says, Roy Moore's loss has the Bannon and McConnell wings of the GOP heaping blame on one another with no signs of a resolution. Then it says, Jones' victory unmasked. Here's part of the article. This is somebody actually speaking is a former McConnell chief of staff. And it says, Jones' victory unmasked Steve Bannon's incompetence, said Josh Holmes, a former McConnell chief of staff and top political advisor. What has been exposed here is that Steve Bannon has been the most harmful person to the Trump presidency in all of politics, Republican or Democrat. And then Karl Rove said, he told Fox News that Bannon, despite the hype and his political genius, did little more in Alabama than rant and rave about the so-called establishment in Washington, not a winning message. Okay, so, and then the Senate Leadership Fund tweeted out a tweet that was called the Bannon Effect. And then it showed you a map of Alabama that was all red. And then after Bannon, all these parts of Alabama that ended up going blue because they went towards Doug Jones. Now, this is important because this means that they are willing to take down the Trump side of the party. Because Bannon is essentially the Trump side of the party. Republicans wouldn't be saying that if they didn't think that they had the base basically behind them. Because a lot of people, even part of Trump's base, were saying, Bannon, this is your fault. Why didn't you do more? Or why didn't you say this thing? Or why didn't you get Trump out there earlier? So people are blaming Bannon. If that happens, what do you think Bannon's going to do? You think Bannon's going to sit there and continue to take the blame? No, he's going to create more division among the Republican Party, which is going to make it harder for Trump to get his agenda done, which I don't give a damn if that happens at all. Don't let him get his agenda done. He's a disaster. But nevertheless, that hurts his presidency. So watch this infighting that's going to go on. There's a civil war going on in the GOP, and I'm just going to get popcorn and watch it actually implode. And then one of the funniest things happened. Like Donald Trump, things are so bad in the imposter's administration. They're just so bad for him right now because nothing's going right for him. For example, he tried to put forth these like quack lawyers and stuff for judicial nominees. And one situation was so hilarious. This was a Republican that was basically examining Trump's nominees. And one nominee stood out. The video actually went viral, but I'm going to play part of it to tell you how bad things are for Trump. People don't even want to work there, where he's going to people like this that I'm about to play to try to get them to be part of his administration, basically moving in on judges and moving in judges into different places. He can't even get quality lawyers to join his team. Listen to this guy.
You not tried a case to verdict in a courtroom, Mr. Pitts? Have you ever tried a jury trial?
I have not.
Civil?
No.
Criminal?
No.
Bench?
No.
State or federal court?
I have not.
Okay. Have you ever taken a deposition?
I was involved in taking depositions when I was associate at Wiley Ryan when I first came out of law school. But that was...
Okay, so this guy basically... This guy's allegedly supposed to be sitting on the bench somewhere in the United States, and this guy has never tried a civil case, a criminal case, a bench trial, a case in federal court, a case in state court. This guy hasn't even done his own deposition. He's been to depositions, and depositions are basically, they're basically under oath examinations of a particular witness before trial, and there's be like a court reporter there, and then you know, the party who actually noticed the deposition will do examination, and then the other party may be able to ask questions, etc. Just like you would in a trial, except there's no judge there, etc. He's never even done one of those. And this is the guy that Trump is trying to nominate to the judiciary. And now it's been 4 of his candidates that have actually been rated by the ABA to not be qualified to be on the bench. So this is a problem when you are such a disaster and everything around you implodes. You're not going to be able to get quality candidates. You're just not going to be able to get quality candidates. People are not going to want to work for you. And that's what's happening when you have somebody that embarrassing that has not done anything, not civil, not criminal, not bench, nothing, not even an administrative hearing. These are the kind of things that are happening to Donald Trump because nobody wants to be around that toxic mess. Then another thing, the tax scam bill. Republicans are pushing through this tax scam bill, and it's a scam. It's the biggest scam. It's going to hurt average Americans. It's going to give the corporations a permanent tax cut while hurting, basically increasing the taxes over middle-class people over time, basically making sure that middle-class people pay for the tax cuts they're going to be giving to billionaires and gazillionaires. So anyway, 29% of the population supports that bill. Trump's own voters don't like it. Literally, they don't like it. Here's the Ann Coulter, who is basically the Wicked Witch of the West. But this is what she said. She was the person who wrote the book, In Trump We Trust. This is her tweet. First bill under real Donald Trump, not about the wall, not about anchor babies, not about chain migration of entire Somali villages to Minneapolis, but tax cuts. This is Bush. So basically, and there are a whole bunch of tweets about that from his own base, because they're very unhappy about this tax scam bill. It has no popularity. Me personally, I'm a proponent for it to pass so that we can decimate the GOP in 2018. No logical person would pass a bill that has that low of an approval rating. And look at the GOP. They are desperately trying to pass something. Just desperately trying to pass something. Voters did not vote for them to pass something. They didn't just vote for them to pass anything. They voted for them to pass the right thing, not anything. And so this is the thing. You're not even listening to your own voters. They're enraged about the fact that you had the audacity to put forth this tax scam bill. And they're going to go forward with this bill. They're going to pass this bill because so many people in the Congress have spinal cords that are jellyfish, and they literally have jello as spinal cords. So a lot of them are going to get on board, like Rubio, who's just a total fraud, who always tries to make noise, but he always capitulates. He's somebody no one should ever take seriously. His presidential ambitions are over. Then you have Bob Corker in in Tennessee, who was against the bill, didn't even vote for it originally, and now is going to vote for it. He didn't even get any concessions. This is a guy saying he didn't want the deficit to go up, but it's supposed to, allegedly, our debt's going to go up $1 trillion with this tax scam bill. And they still want to pass it. They're like on a political suicide mission right now, and I'm not going to stop them from doing it. If they all want to go, that would be fine by me. I will literally help them pack. But the thing is, doing this is literally one of the dumbest things you could possibly do. So right now, Trump's presidency is a disaster. He's got Mueller hounding him right now. Mueller allegedly is also going and getting emails from his campaign members. Why would he be doing that? Because somebody probably told him, because he's interviewed people part of the campaign. He's interviewed people within the White House. Somebody probably told him there's a lot in those emails. So he subpoenaed those emails from the people in Trump's campaign. Okay. Mueller has already secured multiple indictments. Donald Trump comes out and says he does not sure whether he's going to pardon Flynn yet. Now, he makes sure when the question was asked to repeat what the question was by saying, I'm not sure if I'm going to pardon him yet. Okay? So he goes and says that, and then people are sitting here wondering, like, okay, what does he mean by he's going to pardon Flynn or he's not going to pardon Flynn yet? I personally think it's witness tampering. I think what the imposter of the White House is trying to do right now is trying to send a message to Michael Flynn that he thinks that he can pardon him. This is the problem that the imposter has. Michael Flynn is not likely going to be able to get off on state crimes. It's alleged that the Maryland Attorney General might bring charges against Michael Flynn. And Mueller is working with all these different states, attorney generals, etc., to make sure that he can insulate and protect that investigation. So this is not really a winning strategy. But Trump said that and repeated the question, like, are you going to pardon Michael Flynn? He repeated it because he wanted Michael Flynn to hear him say that. To me, that's obstruction of justice. That is witness tampering. That's a guy who's essentially trying to get Michael Flynn to hear and say, look, I'm thinking about pardoning you. It's not going to work, imposter. Everything is going south of the border for you. Your approval rating is shit. Your bill that you're trying to pass, the first legislative accomplishment, is a disaster. And actually, if you pass it, it is going to do more damage to your presidency than anything else. Not to mention, no one's going to celebrate the fact that you got something accomplished. Everyone's going to say, this was not what we asked you to get accomplished, especially your base. And when they feel what this actual bill is going to do to their lives, you are going to suffer the consequences of that. So really, you have no accomplishments. Zero. And even your own base, people like the Wicked Witch of the West and Coulter, say, you have failed on this one. So things are going south of the border for the imposter at the White House. Things are going south bigly. I mean, things are just really, 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 really bad for him right now. And so I'm going to sit back and enjoy him going down in burning flames. So I'm going to take a break. I'll be right back. And when I get back from the break, I am going to talk to you about something that I think is really, really significant. It was a very, very touching situation that happened in Alabama. It was this guy who went against Roy Moore and stood up for what's right. And I have a good message after that. So I'll be right back. I'm going to take a break. Okay, fabulous people. Thank you for staying with me. Okay, so there was this really, really interesting story that happened in Alabama. This was a man whose daughter had died. She was gay, and he was basically outside protesting against Roy Moore in Alabama. And I want to play the video because there's something important that I think I need to say about this video and what I think is a good message, I think, in terms of social justice and the progress of social justice in this country. All right, here it is.
My name is Nathan Mathis. My daughter was Patty Sue Mathis. That's her right there. Judge Roy Moore called her a prevert on one reason, because she was gay. If he called her a prevert, he called your child a prevert if she was gay, or your son was gay. This is something people need to stop and think about. You're supposed to uphold the Constitution. The Constitution said all men are created equal. Well, how's my daughter a prevert just because she was gay? Does it mean she was born gay? I don't know the answer to that. But she was gay. There she is.
Are you a man of faith?
Am I a man of faith? Yes. I am.
Being out here tonight, what do you hope to accomplish?
I don't know what I'll accomplish. I really don't. I had mixed emotions about coming, but somebody needs to speak up. And if it's all to no avail, so be it. It won't be the first time I've done something to no avail, okay?
How far of a drive
But my
was it?
sign there speaks for itself, and my sign is true. Sir?
How far of a drive was this for you?
I'm only about 15 to 20 miles away. I was born here in Midland City.
So are you suggesting that the suicide of your daughter was because of...
No, I'm not
like
I'm not suggesting that. I was anti-gay myself. I said bad things to my daughter myself, which I regret. But I can't take back what happened to my daughter. But stuff like saying my daughter's a prevert, sure, I'm sure that bothered her. Now, you know, Judge Moore not just said my daughter. He didn't call my daughter by name. He said all gay people are preverts, abominations. That's not true. We don't need a person like that representing us in Washington. That's why I'm here.
Okay, that's one of my favorite videos. Like, I wish you could actually see the video. I'm going to put a link at the bottom of this so you can actually watch the video for yourself. He actually was on Ellen. I don't know if it was yesterday or right after the election, but he was on Ellen. Ellen brought him on the show, and it was so cute, the actual interview. But the reason why I wanted to play that video is because, one, he basically shows us that anyone can change. You know, it's so hard to believe. People say, oh, the older they get, the older they are, there's no way they can change. This is a guy who went from thinking that being gay was an abomination, losing his daughter to suicide, and then realizing that he was wrong. And now is coming out, and came out, made a sign against Roy Moore, stood out there in the cold, just to be able to tell his story about his daughter and to get people to change their mind about how they view gay people. See, this is a country that's progressing, and it's amazing because this is an older man. This is a country that's progressing. And that needs to continue to progress. Donald Trump is an abomination. He brought so much disdain and stain to the United States of America. But this guy right here is part of what's great about the United States of America. And that's why I wanted to make sure I played that clip so you guys could realize that there is still hope in the United States of America. Good does come from a lot of these situations. Even having to have someone as despicable as Roy Moore running, someone like this guy made sure that he took himself into the situation, put himself in the situation, and stood up for what is right. So that is so commendable, and I just wanted to make sure I brought that up. But let me just tell you guys a couple things before I end this broadcast. Let me just say, first of all, don't worry about the Mueller investigation. Just don't worry about it. Calm down. Mueller's not worried. You shouldn't be worried. Most lawyers are not worried. I mean, people are concerned because they think that he's going to fire Mueller. He can't fire Mueller without going through Rod Rosenstein. That means he would have to fire Rod Rosenstein and then fire Mueller, which would be the Saturday Night Massacre like Nixon, which is part of the reason why Nixon ended up having to resign. So I don't know if that's something that he's gonna do. He can't fire him without Rod Rosenstein. So just remember that while people keep on trying to hype it up and scare you, it's going to be very difficult for him to do that. He's got to fire Rod Rosenstein, probably Jeff Sessions, and Robert Mueller. That's essentially the Saturday Night Massacre that happened with Nixon. And another thing, too, is find out who is the Democrat challenger in your state for every single seat that's up for re-election or up for election at this time. Find out right now who are all the Dem challengers and start to promote them. Get them out now. It's time to start fighting back. There's no point in just being angry. Get revenge, right? I'm not just going to be angry. I'm going to get even. That's what I'm going to do. And the way to get even is to make sure that we put Democratic challengers in those seats. We need to put them in office so we can reverse a lot of the damage that's being done by the imposter in the White House. And another thing, too, on that investigation. New York, it's being headed by A.G. Schneiderman, wants Trump on a silver platter. There's no way under the sun they're going to be able to get rid of this investigation without having to face Schneiderman in New York. And as I have said before, there are no pardon powers in the states by the presidents. So Schneiderman can go after Kushner, Donald Trump, and Donald Trump Jr. So Mueller's investigation is pretty solid. It's protected. So even if he fires Mueller, which we should take to the streets if he does, and peacefully protest, we should take to the streets and protest, for sure, if that happens. Because that's just undermining democracy consistently, and we need to get him out of there. But the truth is, don't think he's going to escape any kind of consequences because he does that. He's still going to have to face the wrath of Robert Mueller. I'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for staying tuned in. And let me say something else before I close out. If you think that a Democratic governor in the state of New York, who is Cuomo, if you think he's going to pardon Donald Trump or Donald Trump Jr. and Kushner, that ain't happening, baby. That's not going to happen. So they're still going to face consequences regardless. So you and I have nothing to worry about. Because at the end of the day, like they say, what is in the dark always comes to light. And trust me, he's not going to walk away unscathed after all this is said and done. So let's be cognizant of what's transpiring. Let's watch over it because he's imploding. He knows his presidency is going up in burning flames, and he's dismantling right now. So I'm going to watch him implode. But the thing is, we still need to make sure that we can stop him and keep him from trying to do much more reckless things like firing Mueller. So we need to keep the pressure on. But at the same time, we need to be focusing on those candidates excuse me, that can who can challenge the Republican Party. Don't forget to go to sylviaexpress.com. That's SYLVIAEXPRESS.com. sylviaexpress.com. Go check that out. On there, we have videos, too, that I'm going to be doing that I don't post actually on YouTube or anywhere else except for our website. Also, articles are on there. I'm trying to post as much as I possibly can. And I'm always obviously talking about things that are going on in this deplorable administration. So thanks anyway for staying tuned in with me, you guys. I appreciate all of you so much for listening to the show. And I'll be back this week with more things, I hope, to talk about the imposter in the White House. Have a good one. Have a good weekend.